Can you tell me about the geology of Flamborough Cliffs? Is that of any importance?
Absolutely, that's the reason why it's so good for seabirds. So Flamborough's basically made up of a chalk headland, and it's the furthest north extension of chalk in England. So where the Yorkshire Wolds meets the North Sea, it's basically formed Flamborough. And the chalk erodes slower than the boulder clay either side of it. And that's ended up creating this peninsula, this headland that's 13 kilometres long. And it's that factor that is the main reason why it's so good for seabirds. So on the north side of the headland, you've got huge cliffs up to 130 metres tall, and they're really important and basically host the UK mainland's largest seabird colony. And the fact that it sticks 13 kilometres out to sea, that's the reason why it's so good for migrant seabirds in particular. And it's probably best known as the site for seeing migrant seabirds on the east coast of the UK.
And are there any particular seabirds that are in decline, that are struggling, that this is important for?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kittiwake are doing relatively poorly at the moment. There's still around 45,000 pairs on the headland, centred on the cliffs just out here and then extending north to Bempton Cliffs. So that's a small gull, literally a seagull, but not as people think of it, a small dainty gull. They're tending to do quite poorly because of lack of food, and that might be linked to climate change. So it's a very important colony for kittiwakes. And something else called a fulmar, which is a bit like a mini albatross. They're another species in decline, potentially for different reasons. They often feed on fishing discard, but as there's less fishing around, then the fulmar populations are declining as well.
And is it only important for seabirds, or are there other animals that this is the position of Flamborough is good for?
It's increasingly important for cetaceans and for seals. So looking down here, we regularly get loafing seals at low tide, vast majority of grey seals, but we do get common seals as well, and cetaceans. So harbour porpoise can be seen daily, really all year round, bottlenose dolphins and whales as well. And of course, Flamborough being a promontory, it's not just seabirds, it's also a great point for birds to make landfall when they're flying over from Scandinavia. So they navigate towards the cliffs, they see the big white cliffs and this promontory as they're flying over the sea, so they make a beeline towards Flamborough. So you can regularly see thousands of thrushes coming over the waves here, and things like short-eared owls coming in off the sea right in front of the observatory, and they're just making it from Scandinavia.
Wow. And have you got any kind of top tips for sea watching? Looking out here now, it looks like it would be quite difficult to see things that far out.
Well, good optics obviously help. It is something you tend to do at distance, so you generally need a telescope, and certainly that helps. But it's something that you need to practice. Sea watching is a niche activity, and you get what you put into it. So the more hours you do, then the better you get and the more confident you get. But you can really start here with the local seabirds in summer. There's puffins breeding just in front of the observatory building here, kittiwakes, guillemots, razorbills, and you start to see those and get familiar with those before you get the more exotic species, which tend to appear in autumn, the likes of your skewers and your shearwaters.